You ready? All right, we'll call the regular meeting of the Public Safety Committee on Monday, March 3rd, 2025 to order. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with Section 1983 and 1984 of the Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of the subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. First order of the business this evening would be to elect a chair pro tem. I'll take a motion.
Second.
I assume you mean chair pro tem, not mayor. So with that motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Trustee Cutts, take it away.
Roll call shows all present. And then we have presentation of life-saving awards from Chief Delane.
All right, this evening we're going to be giving away a life-saving award to 4 members from an incident that happened on February 18th at approximately 12:15. The fire department was requested for an unresponsive patient inside of a vehicle. The responding units were in the vicinity already for another call for service. The responding units were the on-duty battalion chief and along with the Germantown police officers. By the time that the on-duty battalion chief and the officers got there, the patient was still inside of the vehicle. And when we did a pulse check, the patient did not have a pulse and was not breathing. The on-duty battalion chief and the Germantown police officers were able to remove the patient from the vehicle. And at that time, the paramedic ambulance 1752 arrived on scene. And right away afterwards, we got the individual onto the longboard and into the ambulance. At that time, the CPR was started. The patient was placed in the ambulance and life-saving measures took place. The patient was defibrillated once, and after that, the crews regained a pulse and patient began attempting to breathe. Rapid transport to Frederick Menominee Falls, and the crews also continued to do ventilations, assisted ventilations with the patient. Patient was ultimately transferred over to Frederick Menominee Falls Hospital, and the fire department was notified last week, Monday, the 24th, that the patient was still awake and alert inside the hospital. With this is a direct positive result of the past referendum. Without the additional staff that we had on scene, the outcome may have not been what we have expected, and this individual still being alive today. So with that, it is my honor to present the following members the life-saving award with the Germantown Fire Department. First recipient is Lieutenant James Cregan. Next recipient is firefighter paramedic Derek Bueller. Next is firefighter paramedic Darren Diamond. And the last one is firefighter EMT Craig Rossman. Thank you very much. We try to do these once a month. However, sometimes situations we're not able to, but as we continue to get more, we'll be sure to bring them forth as often as we get them. So thank you for this.
And with that, we'll move on to citizen input. We'll move on to citizen input. Please be advised per 19.84 parent 2 that information and comment will be received from the public. It is the policy of this municipality that public input be limited to a 3-minute period per person with a time extension granted at the direction of the chairperson. Be advised that there may be limited discussion of the information received, but no action will be taken under public comments. So anyone that would like to come forward for public comments?
Of course, there's.
Yeah, there's two, one for that and one for, I'll give it to you the next time. Okay, sit down, okay. Very disturbing things going on. I'm gonna cover C, the contract for demolition of buildings on the Flower Source site. This whole project, again, according to one board member, our uninformed group, I went and did my research all the time. So I talked to somebody from our office here. All of a sudden, I want to know who owns Flower Source and what money why are you demolishing buildings? Do you own the property yet? What is it costing? The citizens were never informed of this purchase, which is over $1 million of our taxpayer money. I hope the people who listen to this will hear this. And it was taken out of our general fund. And I said, really? And how are we going to pay it back? And guess what he mentioned? The 3 magic letters, TIF, TIDS, okay? And this is unbelievable. And we were never informed of this purchase. And we were reading from one of the scripts of being uninformed. From one week to the next, all of a sudden, the Flower Source is purchased by Germantown for over $1 million of our money that we never had a say in about anything. And not only that, but this thing should be stalled right now to wait until the public has a decent interference with their opinions and questions about this project. I talked to a lot of people who do a lot of shopping. I've been involved in real estate most of my life with my father. My dad built a lot of buildings and bought a lot of property, okay? So I'm not perfect and I don't know everything, but I have common sense. And I talk to people. Germantown is not a destination, and I don't know how many millions of dollars this project is going to cost, but there's a Bible verse, and I want to bring it up because I was told, oh, don't need meetings until we get interest. You don't have interest unless you count the cost. For which of you deciding to build a tower does not sit down and count the cost carefully, considering the cost and challenges to ensure that you have resources to finish the product, even though it's a while. And then you're planning on building apartment buildings first, okay? And I talk to people who shop. Germantown's not their destination. If they want what you're planning, they're going to go to Von Maur or Milwaukee Market, okay, which is phenomenal. There's no way we can compete with that with the money they had. And I suggested to our village president that we go out and look and secure developers. The 2 we have are not qualified for a business as big as this, okay? And I don't want to get stuck 10 years from now with a corner that's dying, because retail is, and I'll read this at the next section because I won't be allowed any more time, but I'll finish what the research I found did. I think we really should have more thought and citizen involvement in this project for millions of dollars. This is unbelievable.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else for public comments?
Get you a yellow sheet in a minute. Oh, here's one. Okay. Sorry about that. Melanie Smythe, N140W17938, Cedar Lane. So that was a great way to start the meeting. I always really appreciate the efforts of our public safety people, and I think it's fabulous that we acknowledge what they do and how they help people in our community and outside of our community who come through here. So thank you for continuing to do that. Now, I'm also commenting about the demolition of the old Flower Source property, or the buildings, anyway, whatever it is. It's not the entire thing, and there were a lot of exclusions in the demolition proposal that was provided. So there are possibly other costs associated with that. I do like the idea of this marketplace that's been proposed, but I do not think that the process in which we have got to this point fully represents the actual feedback that was garnered from the various meetings, because none of the drawings were changed. And we're only about a third of the way through the actual master planning process, as you know, Trustee Baum, based on your professional experience with these kinds of things. Not enough work has been done to actually determine something that can be provided to developers so that they can react based on what we are saying we want. We have abdicated responsibility of master planning to the developers in this current process. So I do have a problem with that. I also question why we are now asking for a contract for a demolition of property we don't own. Now, can it wait? Why is it being rushed through? I don't really understand that. So I'd like to know from our attorney, are we allowed put together a contract and approve contracts for property we don't own at this point? I mean, it seems odd. It seems out of order, and maybe we should wait on it. It just doesn't seem like it makes sense at all. Can you answer that?
I can give you lots of answers, but as we indicated at the beginning, this is not a time for back and forth. This is
You can
just,
answer that one question, right? Just to clarify for everybody?
I think the answer to that question begets more questions, and
Okay.
we're going to be here
So
for much
the
longer.
answer is maybe we shouldn't be doing it. Thank you. I'll write this up.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else?
Sarah Larson, Butternut Road. As Melanie indicated, thank you very much to the first responders. We really appreciate the diligence and the extra staffing. I'm here to comment on the Flower Source item, and I would ask that you table voting on that, given that we apparently do not own the property. And I think you should be privy to environmental studies so you can fully understand what additional costs potentially are going to be involved in this. This isn't a simple $50,000 decision that you would be forwarding to the board. There could be other implications. And I would think that you would want to know also for your own personnel safety as to what type of environmental conditions are going to be there that could be hazardous. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Anyone else for citizen comments?
Scott Heffley on Old Farm Road. Also a comment on the demolition, as I don't recall, the demolition of the old DPW buildings did not go through public safety, so it's curious why this is on here. I imagine it would go through the village board, but there's probably a better committee for this than this. Public safety. Demolition firm. They're not blasting as far as I know, they're just removing buildings. Also, interesting that this is a counter to what was in the Express News, March 1st edition, for those of you who get it, including me. Comments on a letter to the editor from Trustee Baum. I read further into this information tonight, and apparently, according to our village administrator, who supposedly is on top of things that we do here, we have a Pilgrim Mequon redevelopment project fund. Don't know anything about that. When was that going to be put out to the public, and where's the accounting for that and what's going on there? Do we throw a bunch of taxpayer money in there? I would certainly like to know. I'll be making a formal inquiry on that because I am a taxpayer and I deserve the right to know. And he goes on to say, we're going to do this, take it out of that redevelopment fund. And he says right in the agenda packet, which you should look at, it will be reimbursed by a TID. That's what it says in the agenda you're going to see tonight. But on page 5, in your article, Trustee Baum, it says TIDs don't need to be discussed. Okay? You state TIDs don't need to be discussed, and we're saying a TID is going to reimburse the demolition on properties we don't own. So maybe you can think about it now and clarify for it to the village board, because I'll be asking again. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Or is there anyone else for citizen comments? No one else will go on to approval of the minutes from February 3rd, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion on anything? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. Then we go to reports, police monthly report.
You have the monthly report in front of you. Numbers are kind of same as last month across the board. Few more calls for service. Sorry about that. You have a training sheet, the last one attached. It had 455 hours of training in the month of January through our department. Some of it was overtime, some of it was straight time where officers will switch their shifts and go to the training instead of paying overtime for it.
Any questions for Chief? All right. Chief Delane, fire reports?
For January, the fire report, our numbers were up slightly for January. It was a pretty busy month. We've been typically averaging in the low 200s. This time it was 227. We did have a couple structure fires in January. That is why in the mutual aid section, you'll see that we received mutual aid quite a few times. That was due to the number of structure fires that we had. Besides that, we did respond to a couple structure fires outside the village in January. Everything else, though, is tracking pretty well normally.
Any questions for Chief Delane? Okay, then we go to overtime reports.
Overtime's tracking as much as normal as it can. Dispatch wise, we're still filling 2 vacancies every week because we're a dispatcher short. We're actually one shift short every 4 days. So 2 shifts short every 4th, 5th, and 6th day. So we're filling that with overtime and then along with the vacation and off time for the other dispatchers.
Any questions? Chief Delane?
Overtime for February was up slightly for the fire department. That is due to our new hire training academy. New hires must go through a 3-week training academy before we allow them to go out and attend a shift on their own. That academy is taught by current members of the department, so that is the reason for the uptick in overtime. However, it is still lower than it had been last year.
Questions? Okay, thank you. Any policy updates?
None for the police department.
None for fire.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to unfinished business and ordinance amending section 12.03 of the Germantown Municipal Code related to suspension or revocation of outdoor entertainment permits.
Sure. So just a very brief recap, I guess. You'll recall that when we adopted the outdoor entertainment permit back in January, at the time there were some concerns about how we go through the revocation or suspension type process with respect to these particular permits. Last month we were before the committee with some proposals or proposed language that we had floated before you. The concern with the language last month was that it really gave you maybe that individual citizen that was either overly sensitive or just, looking to be, I don't want to say a pain, but, argumentative, continually filing, those types of requests, that we were worried about that type of circumstance. And so the language that we've presented this month for your consideration effectively solves that problem. Basically, the process as it's laid out within the proposed language is that when we get a complaint, that complaint goes to the appropriate department, depending on what the nature of the complaint specifically is, noise, if it's a fire-related type issue, safety issue, it might go to police versus fire to, community development or planning. Really just kind of depends on what the particular complaint is. The staff member who's been assigned that complaint then investigates, decides whether or not they believe that there's sufficient cause to bring forward the matter to this committee. And then this committee can review that report, make a decision as to whether or not they want to proceed with a hearing or not. And then if you proceed with the hearing, then you have the hearing and you issue, either a revocation, a suspension, or just amending the terms of the particular license, for example. With the way that we've structured it, it does not have to follow that process. So for example, if, the complaint comes in, and I'm going to pick on John just because I'm looking at him, but it comes into Chief Delane and Chief says, nope, no issues. And the property owner that's complaining really believes that there is a problem. They can obviously come to this body or even somebody on the village board and, effectively try to plead their case directly with one of those two bodies, who then can basically require that process to also be followed. So you can kind of sidestep the staff process in those circumstances where maybe the committee might feel like the resident that's complaining isn't getting enough consideration with respect to their complaint. So kind of balances the best of both worlds, I think, and that's the proposal.
I will make a motion to accept the ordinance amending section 12.03 of the Germantown Municipal Code related to suspension or revocation of outdoor entertainment permits as presented.
I'll second. Any discussion? Trustee Baum?
I think it responds to my concern that a resident just comes back time and time again. So I like that one of the officials of the community has to be aware of it and they bring it forward at the recommendation of the resident. So I'm happy with the change.
Trustee Pieper, you had something?
Yeah, I was just wondering, the writing that is in blue, is that added?
The writing in blue is the changed language from last month. It's not really added because this section doesn't exist currently. So the blue is just what we added or what's different from last month.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We move on to new business. Item A, resolution number 02-2025, resolution accepting funds from the Washington County Emergency Medical Service and Fire Grant Program. This is Chief Delane.
Thank you. It came to Washington County's attention last year that most of the fire departments in the county are having problems with staffing, equipment, and overall funding. What the county has done is, with the addition of the sales tax that they have been collecting, has been providing grants to the municipal fire departments. This year, our grant from the county is $177,000. This resolution is an authorization from the board to accept the $177,000 grant.
I will make a motion to accept the resolution number 02-2025, accepting funds from Washington County as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Trustee Pieper?
What are the funds to be used for?
The funds are basically allowed to be used for anything within the fire and EMS department, from salaries to equipment, to basically anything the fire department needs. There are very few limits on it. We also did receive $177,000 last year as well.
What is the intent of this to be used for?
So we do still have some funding left over from last year that we were kind of hanging on to kind of see the direction of the facilities project, where that ended up going. This year, the $177,000, we're looking at putting about $150,000 of it towards a new incident command vehicle, which is a vehicle that we take to every call that has equipped with radios and extra equipment that the incident commander can utilize to communicate with all the different counties coming in and along those lines, but it is not 100% set yet.
Do we have turnout gear for all of the new and pending hires?
Yes, we do.
We do. So that's already been paid for.
That is one of the items we used last year's funding for,
Yes.
and we do still have some funding left over from that, but we do also have it budgeted.
Is this not the SUV that you are driving? Is that what this this vehicle is that you're talking about?
So this new vehicle would be a pickup truck that actually has a slide out tray in the back that would carry a whole bunch of extra radios so that we can communicate easier with neighboring departments coming in who may be on a different radio frequency or a different radio group. In addition to that, it'll have other communication equipment, computers that we don't currently carry. It'll also have dry erase boards and accountability boards and things along those lines that are more in line with what neighboring communities do.
I'm not opposed to accepting the funds at this time, but I have a problem with, we're gonna use it for this. We haven't even discussed what we're gonna use it for. So is that not a budget item that should come before the budget?
We have had it budgeted in the past. We have not gone down that road. We had different needs that were needed at that point in time. They were more pressing. For example, one of those items would have been a grass fire truck. We took some of that and converted it to a grass fire truck. But that's why it's not on here right now, because we don't have everything 100% set yet.
So it's fair to say that we're not allocating the funds tonight. We're just accepting the funds.
That is 100% correct.
Okay, that I'm willing to do that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We move on to new business item B, acceptance of Wisconsin DNR Forest Fire Protection Grant.
So also every year, the Wisconsin DNR puts forth a grant that you can utilize to purchase wildland, brush fire, grass firefighting equipment. Currently, this year, the fire department was awarded a 50-50 grant. The amount we received was $5,429.20. This line is for acceptance of that grant money.
Make a motion to approve new business item B, acceptance of Wisconsin DNR Forest Fire Protection Grant.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. On to the new business item C, purchase of firefighter personal protection equipment with portion reimbursed by the state of Wisconsin DNR FFP grant.
So with the acceptance of that grant, the fire department is looking to utilize the state's portion and our 50% match to purchase wildland firefighting gear. Currently, when we have brush fires, grass fires, our firefighters wear their structural firefighting gear to tend to those fires, which is very cumbersome and very, very hot. You're basically wearing a snowsuit in the middle of a burning field. This grant would allow us to purchase from the DNR wildland firefighting gear. We do have money in the budget to meet the 50-50 match. It would come out of our regular fire protection, or excuse me, protective equipment line item.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the firefighting personal protection equipment.
Second.
Any discussion? Trustee Baum?
What jumps to my mind is small, medium, large? how do you decide which, you got these three people are the ones fighting those fires, or all people have to be large?
Everybody gets assigned their own gear.
Oh, this is a whole set of gear for,
Yes, wildland firefighting gear is significantly less expensive.
oh, so 10 grand will cover our whole staff. Okay. All right, I'm fine with it then.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Move on to new item business D, application for temporary Class B retailers license, Kiwanis of Germantown, Taste of Germantown, 7/24/25.
Motion to approve new business item D.
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. All those,
I don't have any.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. On to new business item E, application for temporary Class B retailers license, Mid-Moraine Municipal Association dinner at Germantown Senior Center, 3/26/25.
Motion to approve new business item E.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. On to new business item F, contract for demolition of buildings on the Flower Source site, W156 and 11116 Pilgrim Road.
All right, thank you. As members of the committee are all aware, on the February 17th Village Board meeting, Village Board directed staff to close on 3 properties, 2 of which are, well, one is which is site of the old Flower Source, another is a vacant lot immediately adjacent to that, and then the Ascension building. The Flower Source property includes a number of buildings, some of which pose a safety hazard. There's some greenhouses that are, and some of them in various states of disrepair, a small house, and a small garage facility. There have been instances of trespassing over the past year or two since the Flower Source closed. I know the police department and fire department are aware of those as well. As of this Thursday, when the close takes place on that property, that problem, to some extent, that becomes our issue. We do take on liability for that. As a result, we have gone out and gotten proposals for demolition of those structures. The lowest proposal was to D&H demolition for $50,791. There are some steps that we would need to take before we can actually execute that and demolish those buildings. There is some additional testing we have to do of the buildings that would be taken down. And we need to, in order to pay for this from the tax increment funds, we need to get further along in the tax increment district creation in order to be reimbursed for that. So, but having said all that, I think it is important to have this lined up and ready to go so that when we are able to demolish those buildings, we're able to do that and alleviate that safety hazard.
Trustee Peeper?
Why is this coming before the public safety?
A couple of reasons. Number one, it is a public safety issue. As I said, the police department has responded to a number of issues that have been there in the past. And I know I've talked
Like
with the
since
fire.
it was sold?
Pardon?
Since it was sold?
Yeah.
Or,
Well, since it was closed and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Chief Martin, are you able to comment on that? How many calls you've received since the Flower Source has shut down?
Don't know offhand, but I can recall 2 instances last fall for sure. Where there was trespassing and we had trouble contacting who the owners were. Basically the trespassed individuals from those, some of them were using as kind of like a flop house.
What's that?
just sleeping there. Kids would go in there and sleep and start fires in there.
Both instances were with juveniles.
I can't say for sure offhand.
Okay.
Those are the only instances I'm aware of, but we had trouble basically trying to find who was the owners of it. We finally got who the owner was, and at that point, we didn't have any issues after that because they kind of boarded it up, but it looks like now it's all open and stuff, like doors have been taken off of it, so it's kind of appealing to younger kids if, when the weather gets nicer, to start going there and playing
Okay.
around.
I'm gonna make a motion to table this and send it to the village board since it's on both agendas anyway, and it's not on consent agenda for the village board. Yeah, I do see a slight public safety.
Concern.
Well, yeah, that it would be on our agenda for public safety, but honestly, I think this should have gone through Public Works or straight to the village board. I don't know. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
This came up on our inspection schedule last year, and I took the building inspector through that building. That building is extreme hazard, especially to any children that are playing back there. All the glass, not all the glass, but a lot of the glass in the greenhouse area has been broken out, and the kids are playing in the glass. In addition to that, there is a giant cistern inside of the building that is basically a 10-foot deep open pit that you can access. What that greenhouse would do is it would rain down inside the building with the water. They would recollect the water. It would go into the cistern, and then they would pump that water back out to continuously water the flowers. So if a child or anybody were to fall into that cistern, there would be nobody aware that they were down there until somebody else came back in. In addition to that, there is also a giant boiler in that building that was used to heat the greenhouses that is wide open, that someone could possibly access and get into the boiler.
I agree that since this is going to before the village board in an hour, we'll address all the issues.
And actually 20 or
Yeah, so I'm fine with moving it forward.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I
Aye. Okay, the motion is to take this forward to the village board at the next, immediately following this meeting. We'll move on to new business item G, an ordinance to amend section 9.02 of the Germantown Municipal Code to allow hunting within Wilderness Park.
So this is,
Sorry, Steve. You should vote on that motion.
I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
I thought we did.
Yeah.
Send it to the village board.
We voted.
Tom seconded and then they voted.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. I didn't hear the vote, sorry.
the Goldendale Creek item that's before the committee today was an item that went through the Park and Rec Commission at their last meeting. I believe it was February 19th. And for some discussion, and they did recommend unanimously moving forward with the recommendation of staff to transfer the Knowles Nelson requirements from the Goldendale Creek parcel to Wilderness Park. It is on the agenda today, and I'll be very honest about this. I'm not sure if this had to come to public safety or if it could have gone from Park and Rec Commission to the village board, but I didn't want to bypass the committee either. So we talking with the village attorney and the village clerk, we decided to put it on public safety and give you all an opportunity outside of the village board meeting to ask any questions or get any information that you'd like on this proposal. Some background. Again, as you're all aware, the village board has about a year ago, maybe I think actually a little bit over a year ago now, approved the acceptance of some land that is currently or was owned by MMSD in the Goldendale Creek area. That's south of Holy Hill Road. There's a diagram in the packet that shows where that is. east of Interstate 41, west of Goldendale Road and north of the railroad tracks. That was property that MMSD originally purchased as part of their Green Seams program using Knowles Nelson stewardship money from or Nelson Knowles stewardship grant funds from the state of Wisconsin. Those grant funds did put some restrictions on the future use of the land. So for example, we could not resell that for development. We could not put in like a large indoor sports complex. However, there are a lot of things that we can use it for. You can have nature trails on there, recreational trails, bike trails. You could have picnic areas, other types of facilities along those lines. One of the things the Nelson Knowles Stewardship Grant also does require is that hunting be allowed on properties that were purchased using those funds. And MMSD currently does allow hunting on that parcel. At this point, it hasn't been much of an issue. There is some hunting that goes on there, some by the neighboring residents. A lot of it, as I've been told anecdotally, is from non-residents because of the close access to the interstate, who will drive out there and park nearby and walk onto the property to hunt in the fall. Oftentimes haven't crossing private property when they shouldn't be, but access to the Goldendale Creek parcel is not very easy at this point. We do have out for bid, DPW has out for bid right now, the construction project for High Point Pass, which will improve the kind of private driveway that exists right now going south from Holy Hill Road towards the railroad tracks. That project will start construction in late spring of this year and be done by the end of the summer. And that's going to greatly improve access to that Goldendale Creek parcel. And I think probably increase the number of people who are utilizing it. We've had a number of conversations with the DNR about those requirements and in particular hunting. As the area around Goldendale Creek does continue to develop, and as this road goes in, and there are eventually some facilities for park users in that area, that it may not continue to be suitable for hunting. What the DNR suggested as an alternative was that we could transfer those Nelson Knowles stewardship grant requirements from the Goldendale Creek parcel up to Wilderness Park. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, but for those who are listening, that's a site that's almost entirely wetlands up on the northeast side of the village. The village does not currently allow by ordinance hunting in Wilderness Park. However, it is a large parcel that's bordered on two sides by large MMSD Green Seams parcels, which do allow hunting. So I think that makes the job a little bit difficult for the police department to enforce the non-hunting restriction on Wilderness Park because somebody is hunting a deer on the east side of the park or just east of the park and MMSD property. That animal doesn't know where the lot line is and isn't necessarily going to stop after it's been shot. So I think it makes the police department's job of enforcement a little bit more difficult. The other point, I guess, on this is that we do receive, and we have received in the past, each year, some residents, it's usually a handful, between 5 and 10 each hunting season, that call and ask if hunting is allowed in Wilderness Park, and an indication that there are some hunters in Germantown who would like to see that opened up. At the request of the Park and Rec Commission on the 19th, they suggested we put this out on Facebook for a poll, which we did later last week. We had a lot of activity, and I would say there was more than anything kind of confusion. I think it kind of shows some of the limitations of trying to do polls like this out on social media, where it's not really amenable to providing a lot of background information. So I mean, there were a lot of comments, everything from, well, we don't want to open a can of worms of allowing hunting in Germantown, was one of them. And I think from somebody who didn't realize hunting already is allowed in Germantown. I mean, up in the area we're talking about, hunting is allowed on all the private properties surrounding Wilderness Park. Wilderness Park is kind of the one area that where hunting is not allowed up there. You know, there were comments, I think because it's called Wilderness Park, some people saying that we should not, you know, open a park up for hunting. And again, this is not a typical or a standard park. There's no facilities in it. It hasn't been developed at all, and probably never will be because of the extent of the wetlands that are there. So again, staff recommendation is that, and this will be on the village board as well, but that the village board modify village ordinances to allow hunting within Wilderness Park.
Trustee Peeper?
How many people took the survey on Facebook?
I don't have an up-to-date number. The last number that I got, I believe there were about 65 people who took the survey, and it was about 55 to 60% were opposed to hunting. About 40 to 45% were in favor of it.
I make a motion to table this again to village board since it's on the agenda for the village board as well. And I would like the rest of the board to have input on it. I don't think, and it doesn't even matter which way we vote, it's still going to the village board.
I agree. I'll second the motion.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Our next meeting date is April 7th at 6 PM, and we are adjourned at 6:52. Sorry, 6:47.
April 7th at 6, what did you say?
6 p.m.
6 PM?
Yes.